My name is Bill Muleib, and that's spelled M as in Mary, U-E-H as in Harry, L-E-I-B as in Baker. And
what is your rank?
at the time of the attack, a PFC in the Army Air Corps. At that time, it was before the Air Force, and though during the World War II, the Air Force was formed, but it was still a part of the Army, but they called it the Army Air Force rather than the Army Air Corps.
How old were you when this happened?
19.
19?
Yes. I had joined the Army in June of 1940, and at the time I joined, they had an option of your being able to join for foreign service or domestic service. And the options for foreign service were the Philippines, Hawaii, or Panama. And Hawaii appealed a lot more to me than the other two. So I arrived in Hawaii in November of 1940. And I was in an Army Air Corps unit at Wheeler Field, learning to be an aircraft mechanic. That was a very good job, but for $21 a month, it didn't pay too well. So the Air Corps had a program that if you went to school and completed a course in engine and aircraft frames, when you graduated from that course, it was 12 weeks, you would get $72 a month. And that was pretty attractive. So in November, probably about the middle of November in 1941, I was selected to go to this school, and the school was at Hickam Field in Hawaii. Hickam at the time was a bomber base. In November of that time, and I had about 10 weeks into this 12-week course, we had a formation, and we were told that they were taking us out of school. They were putting us on what they called a ground defense battalion, and we would be stationed around the periphery of Hickam Field and at sensitive spots like the bomb dump, fuel dump, place like that, with 50 caliber live machine guns, live ammunition, and we were on shifts of 2 hours on duty, 4 hours off, back 2 hours and 4, 2 hours and 4 for a 24-hour cycle, then off one day and then back on that cycle. On December 7th, I had just got off my assigned post at 6 o'clock that morning, and we had been moved out of the consolidated barracks into a tent city so they would have complete control over our unit. And we went to the consolidated barracks for breakfast. After breakfast, we went over to our tent city and hit the sack because we were going to back on duty again at 10 o'clock. We were awakened by loud noises. And the first thing is a Navy practicing on Sunday, because Hickam Field is directly adjacent to the Navy. So I lifted up the side of my tent, and I saw these aircraft flying over with the red circles on them and dropping bombs, and they were very low, and you could see when they released the bomb, you could see where it was going to hit before it actually hit. So that continued for a while. We were trying to keep out of the way of strafing and bombing, and then we got in our trucks and went out to our gun positions, and that's where we spent the rest of the day. And there were two attacks, incidentally. We were, of course, directly adjacent to Pearl Harbor, so we could see the attack on Pearl Harbor as well. It was not an experience that you would want to repeat, believe me. There were all sorts of rumors going on. We were told that the Japanese were dropping paratroopers up on the North Shore on the island, which was not true. But that was just another part of rumors which generally take place during actions like that. After the attack, and things settled down where we had communication with our organizations. Those of us that had been in school found our organizations, went back into them. And my organization, the 6th Pursuit Squadron, moved down to Hickam Field for a period of time. They had suffered severe damage to our aircraft up at Hickam. And out of 25 aircraft, most of them were destroyed, but the people up there in our squadron were able to salvage, with putting together parts and so forth, 12 or 13, I forget the exact amount, that we could put in flyable condition. Shortly thereafter that, we moved back up to an old polo grounds on Schofield Barracks, and we stayed there for a few months. And then powers that be decided that we should be a night fighter squadron, so they made a night fighter squadron out of us. And we moved to another part of the North Shore, and when we were trained, and we were the first users of radar in the Air Force as night fighters. After we were trained sufficiently, the Air Force, Army Air Corps rather, still the Army Air Corps at that time, would note where there were troops being bothered with night attacks from Japanese aircraft, and they would detach a certain number of our aircraft to go down, take care of that, and then they would rotate those aircraft back. And that was about the sum total of what we did. And I was rotated back to the States in June of 1943. And that's about it.
Wow. You were pretty much like...
Pardon?
You were pretty much a warrior. Like, that's incredible, like, what you went through. Were you nervous for a very long time after Pearl Harbor?
You have a great deal of fright. I remember I was going through some photographs that I had taken while I was in Hawaii, sometime after the attack, and I had a picture taken on my 20th birthday, which was February of '42. So this was directly after the attack, and I had written on the back of the photo, "Today is my 20th birthday. I want to see if I wonder if I'll be 21." I mean, you get sort of a fatalistic attitude. And you don't realize that it's a perfectly normal reaction to be quite concerned about losing your life, but people that you don't even know. And then you get very annoyed with yourself for having those feelings, and then you become sort of a warrior. Let's put it that way. Then you want to see some action. You want to get even, as it were. You want to do to them what they did to you, kind of thing.
So, what, like, during the attack, do you think you were more scared or more shocked, or, you know, like, what were you thinking?
Well, during the attack, you couldn't believe it was happening. It was like you were watching something in a movie. And then until bullets start flying around you say, wait a minute, some people trying to kill me here. I don't even know who they are. You get rather upset. Yeah, you get frightened. Yes, which is just a normal reaction. You'd be pretty stupid not to be frightened.
How long were you in the armed forces?
At that time, I was in for 5 years, 2 months, and 8 days. I stayed in the reserve and was recalled for the Korean War, and I was in another 21 months for that. And I stayed a little bit longer in the reserve, and then decided to get out.
Yeah. Would you do it all over again?
Oh yes, the experience that you have stay with you. As a matter of fact, it's demonstrated right here by the number of Pearl Harbor survivors that formed an association, because you were part of a common experience, a traumatic experience, and it just bonds all of you together, even though you were in different branches of the service, different units within those branches, but at the same time you have a spirit of camaraderie, because of
Right.
what experiences you had common
Right.
to all of us.
I'm sure you're all proud of each other.
Oh yes.
So, do you think it's important that people learn about Pearl Harbor and history and things like this?
Well, as they say, if you don't read history, you're bound to repeat it. Keeping America alert, remember Pearl Harbor, is part of our credo. And that's why we have such a close cooperative association with the Pacific Historic Parks. Because what they've done is they've adopted this because it happened here as a means by which they can inform people of all colors, creeds, backgrounds, age groups, what did happen here. Because it was an event that changed history. That's when this country decided to get in, well, they didn't decide, they were forced into getting into the war.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about Pearl Harbor?
Thank you.
No, I think that pretty well sums it up.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Talk to my Marine Corps friend.